to men and women and everything and everyone in between. Have you ever had the parent, friend, or romantic companion that constantly made you feel guilty and what damn near demanded worshipful idolization? You ever have the relationship of any kind with a person that nagged you to death and bitched at you constantly? Nothing you ever did or do is right or good enough for that person who regularly finds every excuse to take a shit on you. This abuse can be at every level of extreme, from actual beatings, as with domestic violence, and or psychic vampirism, which sucks away at your self-esteem and where you constantly have to dance around the fragility of their emotional eggshells. You're treated like you have no feelings of your own, and the whole purpose of your existence is to make them feel better about being them. What's being requested by them is not love, it's guilt. And guilt and love are not one and the same thing. Guilt can look you right in the eye and plainly say, I hate your fucking guts. But my hollow void that lacks any personal self-esteem demands I get all my self-esteem from you and that you love and respect me. Meanwhile, they can't stand you. But they will not just leave you alone or let you go. In fact, the more they hate you, the tighter they hold on because their low self-esteem feels it needs you. It's got you propped up on a pedestal that tells them they're nothing without your worshipful adoration. Black Lives Matter is a collective cut from this cloth and an organization that does not love and respect you and makes no apology for it. The only thing they give a damn about is that black people feel like self-hating victims and white people feel such a self-hating guilt that they're willing to sacrifice themselves on the cross of the black people's burden. White people and everything remotely or supposedly representative of white people is now defined as that burden and what justifies death to America itself. The problem with America, as very much illustrated by the high intellects at the Smithsonian, is that it's a nation of the white man's ways. You know, that evil domain of personal empowerment and individual sovereignty. They want a land of success and wealth entitlement, and America is not the land of entitlement. It's the land of opportunity, where we, each of us, are free to become the product of our own choices. And when one has made really bad choices, it can really suck to look in the mirror and see the bad product of those bad choices. So a lot of people don't do it. Instead, they look at anyone they perceive as doing better with hate and envy, which leads to blame. Suddenly, it's not their fault their life sucks, it's yours. Look at you. You greedily took all their opportunity and left nothing for them. You don't even care how hard it has been for them. You're such a self-serving, evil piece of shit. Not that they give a shit about how hard it was for you to make the good choices and personal sacrifices that got you into a good position. Nah, everything was just handed to you, or so they're told, and they've been left in the muck of being forced to make no choices but bad ones. It doesn't matter what personal shithole you had to dig yourself out of to get whatever you have and they don't. And the same low self-esteem that got them into the bad choices of bad relationships, such as relationships with gangs and the accompanying gang violence, drugs, alcoholism, teenage pregnancy, or whatever, is now pissed off at you. That's all your fault, because you grew up in privilege and they didn't. So you better feel super guilty, get on your knees, make yourself a whipping post, and prostrate yourself at the altar of their self-victimization in a brand new church that's made your actions or inactions their personal savior, while they happily suck every bit of marrow that makes you a functional human being from existence. So, of course, they can terrorize you because you're not human. You're the burden and plague that's caused them all their problems, and you better damn well feel guilty about it, and making yourself a willing buffet for the zombies to feed upon as they try to nurture themselves on what they falsely perceive you have and they don't. And this is some scary shit, because the uber-successful billionaire in Oprah has already told a homeless and possibly mentally deranged and or drug-addicted whitey that they're more privileged for reasons of skin color alone. It's one thing for someone to resent you, your so-called privilege, of having a nicer house or job than their own. They may come and demand you give up your home and or the affirmative action of your job and tithe to the church of white people guilt and black people's burden. But now what Oprah and her similar ilk has said is that a white skin color alone is privilege. And the one and only tithe for that horrific logic is slavery and ultimately genocide. Because what's ultimately envied when we're arguing homeless whitey is more privileged than billionaire black is skin color, regardless of that skin color's personal circumstances. Oprah's basically saying that the mere existence of white people justifies black people, even with the immense power and success as her own, feeling insecure. So white people, whether they ever deliberately wronged a person of color or not, must apologize for the supreme sin of being born white. And if they refuse, then they're truly evil incarnate, which justifies all manner of abuses. Because the insecure will always say, "How dare you not break your back under the weight of my low self-esteem?" This is what, in my mind, makes so-called journalists like Caitlin Johnstone a total dumbass. I once read a tweet of hers where she basically was saying, "Get over yourselves, white people. Just bow already and humble yourselves." The thing is, dear Caitlin, there's nothing remotely humble in demanding people bow before you. That's the epitome of the hollow and ungratifying world of narcissism. What in the hell does bowing solve? It solves nothing. It simply creates a royal class and a new caste system of slaves and a landlocked codependency that progresses no one anywhere. The slave needs the royal to survive, and the royal needs the slave to survive. This is what has made America so great. America says you need you to not only survive but thrive as your own independent sovereign. You don't need anyone else to love and respect you. You need only you to love and respect yourself. And in loving and respecting oneself, the weight of other people's feelings is no burden upon you, because other people do not define you. You define you. You set your rules, and you deal with the good and or bad consequences in ways that would ideally help you learn and grow as both a human being and a productive member of society that adds genuine value to yourself and everyone around you. Freedom means having the freedom to succeed and or fail. It doesn't always guarantee great outcomes for everybody. It only guarantees that everyone has the liberty and potential to make great and or poor outcomes for themselves. Most times it's an odd combination of the two because no one's perfect and we all need to make mistakes to learn. But the political left has sought to bastardize mistakes that should be productively used as life lessons. It has sought to erase them from history so that we may never learn from them and grow beyond them. America's mistakes has now made America an enemy, which must be abolished, along with its freedoms and allowances for individual sovereignty. An equality preaching and slavery hating left are actually demanding to be a served royal class for reasons of their moral and intellectual supremacy that portrays anyone outside their hive mind as evil and barbaric. And this will serve as the foundation for a new inquisition, which slaughters the heretics who refuse to bow down at the church of white people guilt and black people burden. We're entering a new dark age, and we better damn well turn on the light.